Welcome back. Our guests today are Shawna Nelson and Jennifer Hall from Northwest Florida Community Hospital. Here talking about senior enrichment. Shawna, when you got here today, you mentioned that there's a special observation this month concerned with mental health. What's the exact name of that?
May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So it's kind of a time that we can designate, just like you do in October for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, to really obviously make ourselves aware of what mental health is and take that time to kind of devote to it, to learning more and finding out the resources that are around you.
I would think of as great an import for that kind of a monthly observation would be the fact that we are trying to wear down that stigma. You know, all of us have mental hang-ups or issues. If you were to talk to everybody at the end of the day has some kind of issue, and a quirk or a phobia or whatever you want to call it. And so it's kind of unfair sometimes when people get painted as having mental health issues. It's just that theirs have caused issues within the workplace or at home, have disrupted lives. Most of us hide ours. I know I've been successful at hiding all of mine for a lot of years. Jennifer, what typically are we talking about when we talk about mental health? I know it's a very broad, holistic subject. We have all in our minds a picture that's painted of normalcy, of what people should do. And at the end of the day, if somebody goes to work every day, doesn't cause a fight when they're there, collect their paycheck, go home, their family's fed, they do all the chores, many of us can live our entire lives with huge issues that never seem to bubble to the surface. Would that be fair to say?
That is fair to say, and I think you hit the nail on the head. As long as it's not something that's disabling or incapacitating, it's pretty often something that's never going to be addressed in our lifetime. But it does get disabling and it does get incapacitating at times for people, and there may be times when even people have been experiencing it, and it has displayed in different ways that we may not have known that they were suffering from depression or anxiety or grief or whatever the problem may have been or the issue may have been. Having mental health issues is not abnormal, but we make people feel abnormal who have mental health issues, if that makes good sense. So one of the things we do is allowing people to not feel alone. That's kind of our group setting situation, and that helps because they say, oh, well, maybe I'm not the only one going through this. Or I have this great aunt who had the same problem I do, and that's the only person I've ever heard of. And that's not true. Most of the time you can share at least components of what's going on with you with other people. And as a rule, once again I say the word we, would probably function better in our day-to-day lives if we could to take an honest count of what's going on with us and actually address the issues that are popping up. And that's kind of what we're trying to do with part of our Mental Health Awareness Month, where we're offering our free depression screenings to the community and anybody who would like to come in confidentially and kind of talk to us about it and see what their next step might be in improving their everyday life and their well-being as well.
I would imagine that a lot of these mental health issues could be exacerbated or kicked off by trauma, by life-changing experiences, loss of a loved one, a bad car wreck, experiencing what we sometimes would call PTSD, something that's outside our norm. Do you find that's true as well?
PTSD is probably one of the things that we come into connection with the most. And that varies with everybody. I think a lot of times we connect PTSD with veterans. We think of a war zone, and that is absolutely something that is present with many. However, you would be surprised how many everyday people have PTSD because of things that they have experienced that have been traumatic to them. There's not a written rule book to that. It's very varying for each person. And I think grief is another big thing. Of course, as we get older, death becomes more imminent, and people around us begin to pass at a more increased rate. So grief is something that's very big, both losing our spouses, our loved ones, siblings, things like that, or even just the loss of personal things. Maybe they can't stay at home anymore and they've had to sell their home and move into a nursing facility. maybe they can't drive, loss of independence. Grief covers more than just losing a loved one. So that's something else.
Do most assisted living facilities or nursing homes or those kinds of, even the third floor at the hospital, do typically they have a resident psychologist or therapist or somebody whose sole focus it is to sort of, again, drill down with some of these people to make sure that they catch these potential problems in a timely fashion? Or do we wait for somebody to act out on some of these things, or maybe a combination of both?
They don't necessarily have a therapist or psychologist. Most of them have a psychiatrist that they contact for issues, but their policies are varying on the other situations.
Yeah, post-traumatic stress syndrome means that you've gone through some kind of traumatic stress. It could have been a really horrific car wreck, or just a loss of a loved one, or a deployment to Iraq. You know, it could be any side of that spectrum, but it's something that has affected you deeply, and you just can't get past. You know, it's interesting. People in New York City, it seems like everybody sees a therapist. Everybody has a psychologist or a psychiatrist. They've got a monthly or a weekly visit, and it's taken as a given, especially when you get into Hollywood and the actors, and everybody sees somebody to talk to, where the rest of us normal people just have a friend or somebody or a spouse. To what do you attribute the fact that some people feel that they can't open up unless it's somebody? I guess maybe it's the lack of judgment, or they're not going to be judgmental. What is it that disallows some people to be able to open up to just a friend or a loved one, and they need to speak to somebody who's professional?
Probably because they're afraid that the person who maybe sees them as being a strong individual will now change their perception of them. Whereas if they go to someone who is a professional, they probably view it more as it's their job to allow me to speak with them about these personal matters, and they're not going to judge me as being a weak individual or such. But I think just maybe being afraid of changing the person who they are very close with, changing their viewpoint of them.
Yeah, nor is that therapist going to be sitting there staring at them at the dinner table, or sleeping with them at night, or having to see them on a regular basis. Jennifer, what's the best part? What's the most rewarding part for you as far as being connected with this senior enrichment program?
Seeing improvements in people's well-being, general well-being, physical well-being, mental well-being, emotional well-being, even spiritual well-being. People are growing in leaps and bounds. They're discovering things they've never thought about, and they're enjoying parts of life they've never enjoyed before.
You've all obviously enjoyed a career already to some extent in this field. Since you've been doing this for NFCH and that senior enrichment program, have you seen people who have made those strides already within your program?
Yes.
So it doesn't take long sometimes, I would imagine.
Sometimes it's as brief as a few weeks or a couple of months, and sometimes it's longer. Sometimes the improvements aren't as big as that, but we routinely see improvement, and we have improvements reported to us. If somebody is comfortable going to church again and maybe hasn't gone to church in 5 years because they feel people are looking at them because they're weak or they're demented or different things that we tell ourselves, but they are now attending that church, and they come in and are talking to us about the socials, and they're talking to us about going out to lunch with friends or going to the plays in town or going to family reunions. Those are huge leaps and bounds for someone that may have been in their house by themselves eating frozen dinners for years and years. And sometimes that's just what's happening.
Shawna, is this the start of a bigger program? You guys, since the last time you've been here, have acquired patients. It sounds like you're able to fully develop your program because you're doing follow-up now with patients. You're getting fully involved in that process. Is this the start of something bigger, or is this in and of itself the program as it's meant to be?
I think that there is the possibility always of growth. You always want things to grow and do well. I think that we are off to a great start, and I'd love to see growth and improvement in whatever way it presents itself.
Mike Kozar has been on board now just a little bit over a year as the CEO and president of Northwest Florida Community Hospital. He's been on the show a couple times. Seems like a really good guy. What's your take on him?
I think he's been absolutely great for me personally. I had met him, of course, when I came on with the hospital last year, and immediately felt supported by him. He takes whatever steps are necessary to help us and help our program out, so I'm very thankful for him.
Same thing?
He's making lots of positive changes in the hospital, and he's very active in everything that's going on, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting, even after 10 years now that the hospital was privatized and taken over from the county, Pat Schlenker came in, made a huge change. Even to this day, there are many people who aren't aware of all of the new services that are available right here in little old Chipley. They still drive right past Northwest Florida Community Hospital, go to the Dothan or Panama City or Tallahassee for MRIs, for bone density scans, for women's health, for self-referral mammograms. And now you've got soft pad mammograms. I mean, you've got cutting edge technology, and almost without exception, it seems like you're offering everything that any other hospital in some of those larger metropolitan areas offer. It's just a matter of just hammering away and making sure that the public can. So I think you coming on the show, just as we have other folks, Tabitha Polston comes on, talks about wound healing.
That's right.
Like I say, Mike Kozar himself comes on and talks about holistically what the hospital's doing. I guess we just have to keep letting people know. You see that there's more of an awareness in the community, Jennifer, for everything that the hospital does?
I do see some burgeoning awareness. There's still lots of places we haven't reached yet, and we really do have a lot to offer.
Yeah, saw you just recently at the Council on Aging Senior Health Expo. We had one of those in Chipley not too long ago. Seems like those are the kinds of venues, and obviously you're trying to market to seniors, and it's a great place for the hospital to do exactly that, reach those seniors. But years ago, they brought a new marketing director in. We were working with the hospital for their marketing, and I asked this young lady, who is your target audience? And she said, 65 plus. And I said, you're wrong. It should be 30 plus, because at 30 years of age, people start making their healthcare decisions.
That's right.
And if you wait till they're 65, they're already seeing a doctor somewhere. They may be going to Dothan, but they're good with that because they like this doctor.
Right.
You have to target them when they're young enough to not need those services, so that as they need those bone density scans and mammograms and whatever else in the case of women, they know that they can come here and talk to qualified people with the state-of-the-art services. Thanks so much for being here today. Hopefully you guys will come back soon with equally good news.
That's right.
Maybe just a short while down the road you can come back and give us an update. Best of luck going forward. Is there anything that you would offer that maybe we haven't discussed, Jennifer?
Not that I can think of.
If people want to find out more, what's the best way that they can get in touch with you guys?
The best way is probably they're more than welcome to stop by. We'd love to have visitors, or they can call us at 850-415-7207. And also they can speak with their doctors if that's something they feel comfortable with speaking with them about. Many of your local physicians know how to contact us as well. So there's many options.
Being that they actually can walk in their door, where on campus are you?
We're in the specialty center. It's right next door to the hospital. Up front, there are some doctor's offices there, and we are right down the hallway to the right before you get to the education center.
Good. Thanks again for being here.
Thank
Thank you.
Our guests today have been Shawna Nelson and Jennifer Hall from Northwest Florida Community Hospital, talking today about senior enrichment. There's a whole lot more to it than what it appears at first, and as you drill down, find out a little bit more about the services offered, maybe a little bit more about the wide variety of reasons why you would want to come and talk to these people. I think that you'll agree that there's probably somebody in your life, if not yourself, that would be interested in finding more about senior enrichment. We'll be right back.